Hey guys, Jimmy. Today I'm going to be going through all of the typings, mainly like the weaknesses and the strengths of all of the new types in Monsters of Etheria. I'm still probably pronouncing that wrong, so hopefully one day I can get a confirmation of however to pronounce that. But anyway, I'm going to probably put up on the screen right now just like a simple type like a list that you can just go through if you want to just pause it and you can learn from that. But for all the rest of this video, I've actually made something that Pokemon Database has done for all of layer types, and it pretty much tells you like what attacks us is this specific type. Oh, this type is super effective against these types. It's not very effective against these types. It resists these types and it is weak to these types. So I've compiled a whole list of the Monsters of Etheria types. The reason why I say Monsters of Etheria, because yes, there are a lot of types in this game that are the exact same as Pokemon, for like fire, water, electric, grass. However, pretty much all of them have different weaknesses, different resistances, and are just different in total. There's no fairy, there is light. Rock and ground types aren't a thing. They both have been pretty much combined into Terra. There's actually two new types, which is Cosmic and Aether, which is pretty interesting as well. And also flying has been changed to wind. And other than that, I believe that is like pretty much all the changes, other than normal being now basic. Which, I guess we'll jump into this straight away. So then, also now I'm going to go into all the pros and the cons for all of these. So then, well, I guess we'll start off with basic. So basic is super effective against nothing. Also, same as in Pokemon, but it's completely fine. Also, if I compare it to Pokemon, it's mainly because it's a lot easy to like try and explain it through Pokemon as well. Obviously, because they're very similar things, although for like concepts like monsters and Pokemon, but also you have to keep in mind that they are different. It's going to take a long time, but actually before I go on as well, this game is very, very confusing on how super effectives and resistances work. Also in Pokemon, it was either your move does half, your move does 1/4, your move does 2 times, and I think, and your move does it doesn't affect it pretty much. So there's nothing like that in Monsters of Etheria. Pretty well, there's no immunities at all. I'll tell you that right now. There's no immunities at all. For like also in Pokemon, electric cannot hit ground. In this game, electric can hit Terra, which is the ground type pretty much, ground and rock, for 0.25 times, which also means it will do absolutely nothing to it. Very weird, I know, but all you have to do if you want, when I'm going through these, is that if you just get like a bit, like just a move of that specific type, all you gotta do is multiply it by whatever number is correlated with this video, and then you can find out how much damage reduction or damage increase that specific type of move will do to a specific type of Pokemon. So anyway, other than that, let's get into this. Except from that, it's very, like I said, it's very weird. There's like a lot of 0.8s, 1.1s, 1.9s, 0.9s. It's very confusing. I think people will be able to memorize what's super effective against what resists what, but I don't think most people will be able to remember how much it affects it, because it's very, very weird in this game, although it does offer like a more competitive playstyle. Although overall, in my opinion, I think it's very confusing. But anyway, other than that, let's get right on to the video so we don't take up too much of your time, because it's actually going to be a very long video. Anyway, straight away, basic. Like I was saying, basic moves are super effective against nothing. However, basic moves are not very effective against other basic type moves for 0.8% or times. They're not very effective against ghosts for 0.25, not very effective against dark for 0.5, light for 0.5, cosmic for 0.75, Aether, which also is a new type, for 0.5. So that's like the attack side. For the defense side, these types are super effective, or no, these types are not very effective on basic, and that is basic, which is 0.8, and cosmic, which is 0.75. And then also these types are super effective against basic, so you might just want to watch out, which is fighting for 1.5, which also is, like I said, basic is normal. In Pokemon, it's pretty much the exact same thing, although in it being 1 times 5, it was 2 times, but either way, just remember that. Ghost is actually super effective against basic for 1.2 times. Dragon is super effective for 1.5 times. Dark is for 1.5. Metal is for 1.75. And light is for 1.1. Okay, so that is it for basic. Let's get right onto the next one, which is fire. So for fire then, for the attack sides, fire moves are super effective against grass for 2 times, ice for 1.5 times, poison for 1.25 times, bug for 1.5 times, metal for 1.5 times. So that's pretty much it for what fire is super effective against. These fire type moves also are not very effective against fire itself for 0.8 times, water for 0.5 times, terra for 0.75 times, and light for 0.75. No, 0.75. Yeah, that's it right. So that's pretty much it for the attack side. Onto the defense side, we have that these specific types are not very effective against fire, and that is fire for 0.8 times, grass for 0.5 times, ice for 0.75 times, wind for 0.75 times, bug for 0.75 times, and light for 0.9 times. And then these types are super effective against fire, which is water for 2 times, terra for 1.25 times, psychic for 1.2 times, and dragon for 1.5 times. So that is it for fire. Let's get right on into water. Also, you can pause these and go through them and slow down the video because I'm talking quick, mainly to try and get through them as quick as possible. There's quite a lot of types and there's quite a lot to talk about, so if I'm talking too quick, also I'm putting it up on the screen just so you can read it in case, but I'm trying to go through it as well for audible reasons, I guess. But anyway, onto the water. For the attack side, water type moves are super effective against fire for 2 times, poison for 1.25 times, and terra for 1.25 times. Water moves are not very effective against water for 0.8 times, grass for 0.5 times, ice for 0.75 times, bug for 5 times, 0.5 times, and metal for 0.75 times. Now is it for the attack side. Onto the defensive side for water. These types are not very effective against water, which is fire for 0.5 times, water for 0.8 times, and that's pretty much it. Not a lot of defensive options really. But these moves are super effective against water types, which is electric for 1.5 times, grass for 2 times, ice for 1.5 times, psychic for 1.2 times, and dragon for 1.1 times. So that's pretty much it for water. Let's get right on to the next one, which is electric. Okay, so for electric, for the attack side, we have these moves are super effective. Oh no, electric moves are super effective against these types, which is water for 1.5 times, and ghosts of everything for 1.25 times. Not against air, which is kind of interesting. But electric moves are not very effective against these specific types, which is itself electric for 0.8 times, terra for 0.25 times, which I used in the example earlier, metal for 0.75 times, and cosmic for 0.5 times. On the defensive side, we have these types are not very effective on electric, which is electric itself for 0.8 times, ice for 0.75 times, ghost for 0.75 times, metal for 0.5 times, and light for 0.9 times. And these types are super effective against electric, which is terra for 1.25 times, psychic for 1.2 times, and dragon for 1.1 times. Onto the next one then, we have grass. So for grass, grass type moves are super effective against water for 2 times and light for 1.5 times. And that is it. Not super effective against too many things, which is kind of a bummer. Actually not super effective against Terra, which is kind of weird in my opinion, but oh well. On to the next one, then we have grass moves are not very effective against fire for 0.5 times, grass for 0.8 times, ice for 0.75 times, and metal for 0.75 times. Onto the defensive side, these types are not very effective against grass, which are water for 0.5 times, grass for 0.8 times, and bug for 0.9 times. Now for what is super effective against grass, which is fire for 2 times, psychic for 1.2 times, and dragon for 1.1 times. So that's pretty much it for grass. Onto the next one then, we have ice, which ice is super effective against water for 1.25 times and dragon for 1.25 times, and that is it for ice. Only two super effectives, and ice is not very effective against fire for 0.75 times, electric for 0.75 times, and itself ice for 0.8 times. That's it for the attack side. Not too much really. For the defensive side though, again, not really too much compared to other types, but we'll get onto it. These types are not very effective on ice, which is water 0.75 times, grass, which is also 0.75 times, ice itself again 0.8 times, and bug, which is also 0.75 times. However, these types are super effective against ice, which is fire for 1.5 times, fighting for 1.25 times, and psychic for 1.2 times. Again, that's pretty much it for ice. On to the next one then, we have fighting. And we're pretty much not even halfway through yet, so this is going to be great. Anyway, look for fighting. Fighting moves are super effective against basic for 1.5 times, ice for 1.25 times, terror for 1.5 times, and dark for 1.5 times. Fighting moves are not very effective against itself, fighting for 0.8 times, psychic for 0.5 times, ghost for 0.25 times, metal for 0.75 times, and light for 0.5 times. That's it for the attack side. On the defensive side, we have these types are not very effective on fighting, which is itself 0.8 times, psychic for 0.75 times, dragon for 0.75 times, and dark for 0.75 times, or 0.75 times, which is actually weird how dragon or fighting resists dragon. Kind of weird, but hey, not my decision. And for the last one also, these types are super effective against fighting, which is ghost for 1.2 times and metal for 1.75 times, which is very weird, but that's it for fighting. Anyway, on to the next one, we have poison, which is right here. So for poison line, poison moves are super effective against wind for 1.25 times and dragon for 1.1 times. Poison moves are not very effective against poison itself for 0.8 times, terror for 0.75 times, and metal again for 0.75 times. These types are not very effective on poison, which is 0.8, and it's pretty much itself, which is poison. I'm actually making sure that I'm right. Yeah, that is literally it. It only resists itself, which is actually pretty bad, I guess. But these moves are super effective against poison, which is fire for 1.25 times, water for 1.25 times, and metal for 1.1 times. That's pretty much it for poison. Very, very few weaknesses, resistances, and the super effectives, really. Very, very weird. But anyway, on to the next one then, we have Terra. For Terra, Terra moves are super effective against fire and electric for 1.25 times, and metal for 1.1 times. Terra moves are not very effective against itself for 0.8 times, wind and psychic for 0.75 times, ghost for 0.5 times, light for 0.9 times, and cosmic for 0.5 times. For the defensive side, we have these types are not very effective on Terra, which are fire for 0.75 times, electric for 0.25 times, poison for 0.75 times, itself terror for 0.8 times, wind for 0.75 times, psychic, dragon, and dark, but all at 0.9 times, and cosmic for 0.75 times. And for the last one also, these types are super effective on Terra, which is water and fighting for 0.25 times. And that is it. That is all that Terra is weak to. Actually, probably one of the strongest for defensive wise. Like, there's a lot of resistances and only 2 weaknesses. I think that's actually really, really good. But that's it for Terra. On to the next one then, we have a wind. So for wind is super effective against ghosts for 1.2 times, dragon for 1.25 times, which I'm actually just making sure that that actually is right. I've got the at the start of the video I put like the chart, and I've got that just to make sure if I see any errors. Other than that, dark and light for 1.2 times. Wind moves are not very effective against fire and terror for 0.75 times. Wind for 0.8 times, metal for 0.5 times, and cosmic for 0.25 times. That's it for the attack. For the defense then, these types are not very effective on wind, which is terror for 0.75 times, wind for itself for 0.8 times, and bug, dark, and cosmic for 0.75 times. And these types are super effective against wind, which is just poison at 1.25 times, which again, actually, let me just make sure that is correct. That is it. That's all wind is weak to. On to the next one then, we have psychic. So for psychic then, for the attacking side, psychic is super effective against fire, water, electric, grass, and ice for 1.2 times. It's insane. I don't know why, but also is super effective against dragon and cosmic, which cosmic I feel like is probably going to be one of the more powerful types in this game for 1.1 times. So it has a lot of super effective can hit a lot of effective types, but they are very, very weak super effective, so I don't really think it's going to affect too much. But psychic type moves are not very effective against fighting for 0.75 times, terror for 0.9 times, and psychic for 0.8 times itself. And these types are not very, that's it for the attack side. Onto the defense side, these types are not very effective on psychic, which is fighting for 0.5 times, terror for 0.75 times, psychic itself for 0.8 times, and dark for 0.5 times. And on to the last one, these types are super effective against psychic, which is, if I actually just make sure this is right again, which is only cosmic at 1.1 times. So only one thing in the game can hit it super effectively, and it's only a 1.1 times. That's taking 100 base power move like Earthquake and making 110 base power. That's pretty much it. It actually does really nothing. And it actually can hit a lot of stuff super effective. So Psychic is definitely one of the more OP types, or one of the better types in my opinion. But is it for Psychic? On to the next one then, we have Bug. For Buglen, Bug are super effective against Dark and Light for 1.25 times. Bug moves are not very effective against Fire, Ice and Wind for 0.75 times, Grass for 0.9 times, and Bug for 0.8 times. That's it for the attack side. For the defense side, these types are not very effective on Bug, which is Water for 0.5 times and Bug itself for 0.8 times. These types are super effective on Bug, which is Fire for 1.5 times and Metal for 1.1 times. Actually pretty good, seeing how the Bug in Pokemon was actually weak to like pretty much everything in the game, pretty much. Anyway, that's it for Bug. On to the next one we have is Ghosts. So for Ghostland, Ghost is super effective against Basic and Fighting for 1.2 times. Interesting that Ghosts can hit normal time move pretty much for super effective, but Ghosts cannot, or are not very effective against Electric for 0.75 times, itself for 0.8 times, and Dark and Light for 0.9 times. These that's it for the attack side. For the defense side, these types are not very effective on Ghost, which are Basic and Fighting for 0.25 times, Terror for 0.5 times, and Ghost for itself for 0.8 times. These types are super effective on Ghosts, which is Electric for 1.25 times, Wind and Light for 1.2 times, and Cosmic for 1.25 times. that is it for Ghost. Until the next type, we have Dragon, which I feel like a lot of people are gonna find this pretty interesting. But anyway, for the attack side, Dragon type moves are super effective against Basic, the normal type, and Cosmic for 1.5 times. And Dragon is super effective against Fire, Water, Electric, and Grass for 1.1 times. Pretty similar to Psychic, where it can hit quite a lot of things, although this one has a little bit more powerful on the normal and basic and cosmics. However, dragons are not very effective against Fighting for 0.75 times, Terra for 0.9 times, and Dragon itself for 0.8 times. These types are not very effective on Dragon, which is just Dragon for itself for 0.8 times. Everything else can hit it neutrally. And these types are super effective against Dragon, which is Ice for 1.25 times, Poison for 1.1 times, Wind for 1.25 times, Psychic for 1.1 times, and then Dark and Light for 1.25 times, and Cosmic for 1.5 times. A lot more weaknesses than it does in Pokemon, but that's fine. But anyway, onto the next one then we have is Dark. So then for Dark, super effective against Basic for 1.5 times, Dragon for 1.25 times, and Light for 2 times. Dark is not very effective against Fighting for 0.75 times, Terra for 0.9 times, Wind for 0.75 times, Psychic for 0.5 times, and itself Dark for 0.8 times. That's it for the attack side. The defensive side, these types are not very effective on Dark, which is Basic, the normal type for 0.5 times, Ghost for 0.9 times, Dark for 0.8 times itself. However, these types are super effective against Dark, which are Fighting for 1.5 times, Wind for 1.2 times, Bug for 1.25 times, and Light for 2 times. So if you actually didn't catch that, Light is 2 times effective against Dark, and Dark is 2 times effective against Light. Very interesting to see that. Anyway, on to the next one then we have is Metal. Also in Pokemon, my favorite type was Steel. I feel like it's probably going to stick this exact same in this game most of every year for Metal. I just love metallic Pokemon really, or monsters. But anyway, Metal moves are super effective against Basic for 1.75 times and Fighting for 1.75 times. Is also super effective against Poison and Bug for 1.1 times. So also in Pokemon, Metal could hit quite a few things super effective, but it was mainly on the defensive side where it destroyed everything pretty much. It is the best defensive type in the game for Pokemon. However, Metal moves are not very effective against Electric for 0.5 times and itself for 0.8 times. Not many resistance at all. Itself and Electric, that's it. No water, so that's pretty good. Anyway, defensive side, these types are not very effective on Metal, which is Water, Electric, Grass, Fighting, and Poison for 0.75 times. And then Wind for 0.5 times, and Metal itself again for 0.8 times. Actually, pretty good. Also, we have, I believe, 7 types there. I think Steel in Pokemon had a little bit more, but hey, I'll take it. That's actually still really good for this game so far. Anyway, these types are super effective on Metal, which is only 2. Fire for 1.5 times, and Terra for 1.1 times, which is very nice. So no fighting weakness, which is very nice. Anyway, that's it for Metal, and on to the next one, which is Light. So then for Light, it is super effective against Basic for 1.1 times, Ghost for 1.2 times, Dragon for 1.25 times, and Dark for 2 times, like I said earlier. Light moves are not very effective against Fire and Electric for 0.9 times, and itself for 0.8 times. You can probably tell a trend. Everything really resists itself for 0.8 times from one type, which is the last type we'll check out. Anyway, for the defensive sets, these types are not very effective on Light, which is Basic for 0.5 times, Fire for 0.75 times, Fighting for 0.5 times, and Terra, Ghost, and Light for 0.9 times. However, these types are super effective on Light, which is Grass for 1.5 times, Wind for 1.2 times, Bug for 1.25 times, and Dark for 2 times. Okay, then so that is it for Light. Now for Cosmic, all in Cosmic, then we just have the Ava one. So anyway, Cosmic moves are super effective against Psychic for 1.1 times, Ghost for 1.25 times, and Dragon for 1.5 times. However, Cosmic moves are not very effective against Basic, Terra, and Wind for 0.75 times, and itself Cosmic for 0.8 times. That is it for the attack side. For the defensive side, these types are not very effective on Cosmic, which is Basic and Electric for 0.75 times, Terra for 0.5 times, Wind for 0.25 times, and itself Cosmic for 0.8 times. However, these types are super effective against Cosmic, which actually is only 2, Psychic for 1.1 times, and Dragon for 1.5 times, and that is it for Cosmic. Until the last one, we are finally done. I'm not gonna lie, I am really, I'm choking. I've done this all in one take, just for like half an hour straight. Anyway, the Ava type, which is probably the most interesting one. Slap this Ava type with a Ninja's ability, which was Wonder Guard, and you'll have the best monster in the game, because that is because Ava moves are super effective against nothing. Ava moves are not very effective against itself for 0.5 times. So like I was saying, every other typing resists itself for 0.8 times, but Ava is the only exception which it resists itself for 0.5 times. However, honestly, that's it for the attack side. Not super effective against anything, only resists itself. For the defensive side, these types are not very effective on the Ava, which is Ava, 0.5 times. However, these types are super effective against Ava, and oh wait, it's not weak to anything, everything can hit it neutrally. Which is why it's like this bad boy, Ninja's ability, I keep forgetting it. Wonder Guard, no, it's not Wonder Guard, it is whatever Ninja. I just said it, I completely forgot it already. And you'll have literally nothing can hit this Pokemon, this monster at all, which is very nice. But anyway, that's it for the type. Honestly, this is just, I'm trying to make this video before the game is released. Once the game is released, it might get some changes and some balancing changes to it, to like try and make sure that not one type is too strong, one type isn't too weak. Although they could try and make it less confusing as well if they decide to eventually, by getting rid of all like the 0.8, the 0.25s, the 0.75s, and just get rid of and just make it 0.5, 0.25, and super effective, and that's it. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it off. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments down below which do you think is the most overpowered type in this game so far, what from your opinions, and what is your favourite type from what you've seen so far as well. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and like always, I'll see you guys next time.